we stand. Better days and better nights as we stand and unite. We're one and the same. Why is it so hard not to point and to blame? Better sheet, get our houses in order and we'll see the peace. There are steps that we must take if we wanna see.
I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us.
The sake of us, the sake of us.
I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us. No more failing, telling me and beneath. What a beautiful moment, and a sight I can't wait to see. Even if I miss it, at least I wasn't part of the mission. Changing lives of men, women, and children. All glory goes to He that causes us all to be. And if they're thinking we can, we show them that just as long as we stand. A monument, we the people can't be broken as long as we stay focused. I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us. For the sake of us. I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us. I see my people rising, yeah.
Shalom, shalom, everyone. Shalom, 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 alaikum. I am Chief Prince Shama, or Nasi Karashi Shama, and I have none other but the Chief Prince Zebulon next to me with this sage talk that we got for you all. You know, we've been out of it for a little minute, but we here. We here.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom.
Yeah, so we wanted to talk about structure and anarchy today. For those who have been tuning in, we've been talking a lot about that, you know, and the importance of understanding which side you fit in, right? And the importance of structure and not having structure, or anarchy, and, you know, being someone that involves or not involves, that's the wrong word, verbiage, but being someone that accepts, right, structure, right? These things are important. What's your thoughts on the topic? Structure versus anarchy. How does that fit in for us as B'nai Israel or Yasharal or Yasharala or Yasharel, whichever one we want to go by?
Yeah, tomato, bologna.
Yeah.
This is always going to be an excellent topic because it's one of the structure and anarchy has become the bane of existence for us as Israel. It's one of the few things that it's one of the most needed things in the community, but it is one of the least spoken about.
Yeah.
And there's different reasons for why it's not spoken of. Obviously, we're going to dive into some of those reasons, but I don't think there's ever a bad time for this subject because until we get structure, anarchy will reign supreme.
Okay.
That's a fact.
Okay. So for those of y'all that's just tuning in right now, if you're not used to our platform, we are House of Balance Assembly. Me and my Ishai and a few others that tune in and things of that nature. We have a location, a physical location that we are getting started in this April. So be on the lookout for those things. Beit Mazan is Hebrew word for house of balance, which is a house cannot be established unless it comes from balance. So that's who we are. My Isha is not here. We have a couple different segments that we do throughout the week. Of course, Shabbat service, Sage Talk on Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got Fab's Chat on Wednesdays or Yom Revi'i at 4:15. It's a few different things. So we just coming and trying to provoke thought and change. But Sage Talk is simply me and Chief Prince Zebulon building, coming before you all, trying to provoke thought and change with the things that we feel can be very beneficial for the people of the Supreme King, for the Most High. So please, if you all want to, make sure you go to House of Balance Network on YouTube and subscribe, share. We're about to get ready to dive in. You can hear us clearly. Let us know if you can hear us clearly too, because we do got to set up a little different today. So yeah, structure versus anarchy. I would want to say that I think that a lot of us, as I was stating this past Shabbat, Yom Shabbat, a lot of us may not even classify ourselves as being a part of the anarchy side of the fence.
Right.
And I guess my question would be, what do you think are some things that we need to do to establish the structure side of things? You know, I know we have the blueprint, but it seems like ever since the blueprint was put before us, we still had an issue with it.
This is always going to be a difficult type of conversation. I mean, it's always a much needed conversation, but it's always going to be difficult because the deeper you dive, the more depressing it gets. And so let me just say, at least on my end, and obviously you're going to bring out some things on your side as well, but the one thing that I'm not ignorant of is that as a people, historically, we have not been outside of a place of anarchy for thousands of years. If we go back to the Tanakh and we look at the historical examples that we have on record, we can probably say that during the kingdom of Solomon, during the reign of Solomon, was probably the only time in the history of Israel where we were a united federation. The tribes were not 12 tribe confederacies. It wasn't like, okay, we're over here. No, it is now the kingdom of Israel. All boundaries, I mean, obviously the borders that were given to our tribal ancestors remained intact, but they did not see themselves as separate. It was like, no, we are under one kingdom. We've never seen that afterwards. Doctrinally, for the longest, we were still in the pocket with each other until we get down to the time of the Greeks. And then something happened, and this is a discussion that we had before, that something happened during the arrival of the Greeks where you began to see doctrinal inconsistencies arise in Israel. Things that were never debated are now debatable. We always speak about the Shabbat. The Sabbath, the Shabbat was always a given. You never see anything in the scripture saying someone's keeping the Sabbath on a different time than the other. You just never see it. The Moedim are always the Moedim. The fasts are always the fast. You never see a discrepancy with anything that the children of Israel were doing as a collective until the Greeks arrived. And something, maybe it has to do with the calendar. You know, when the Julian calendar, not the Julian calendar, there's another calendar prior to the Julian, but when they began to bring in their calendars, sort of like what the book of Daniel talks about, seeking to change times and laws, something shifted. So now we have to rethink, when are we supposed to keep this? Oh, well, I'm going to keep it today. Well, I'm going to keep it over here. Something happened, and I believe it has to do with the time. Obviously, at this point in history, we're so far past that point that we can't undo what's been done.
Right.
It's ingrained in us.
Mm-hmm.
You ask your average Israelite to recite the 12 months in a Hebrew calendar, most of us cannot do it. And I'm not talking about the Nissan and Tammuz and Bul, whatever like that. I'm just talking about, hey, the ordinal names.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. So our timetable has been screwed. Once you screw up a person's time, you screw up their movement.
Yeah.
So these are things that we can't change at this point because it's so deeply rooted in this society that that you would literally be spitting in the wind at this point. There's nothing you can do. But what we can do is, first of all, acknowledge. This is a hard one. Acknowledge that, for the most part, we may not know what the hell we're talking about. And I'm putting myself in. I mean, I'm just saying that. And what I mean by that is, we have to be able to come to each other with a certain level of humility, regardless of our knowledge base, regardless of what we know or what we think we know, and whether the Most High spoke to us or not, whatever. We still have to come to each other and say, okay, you know what? There is a great possibility that I might be wrong.
Yeah.
There's a great possibility that you might be wrong. Mm-hmm. There's even a greater possibility that we might both be wrong.
Right.
So humility has to be the first thing that we address when we start talking about order, when we start talking about structure. You cannot build any type of structure and order if everyone thinks they're in order.
And you know what I'm probably gonna take us there in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I think of? We always run back to Ezra and Nehemiah. We always run back to Ezra and Nehemiah. And but the one part I love, one of my favorite scriptures, especially as it pertains to the exilic moment that we're in now. Some people say captivity, but the exilic or captive state that we're in, I think exile is better. The best examples, like Jeremiah 29.
Right.
I always bring that out. I may sound like a broken record or whatnot, but I believe that it's very interesting how in Jeremiah and every prophet, honestly,
right,
it talks about conduct, as I was saying this past Shabbat.
Mm-hmm.
But Jeremiah 29 was one of the best spots because it told you how to operate in a exilic moment.
Right.
But it also showed with some of the other prophets that, okay, this was just a season. So going to your point, look, a lot of people have been in traditions. They've been doing things traditionally for a while, right? It could just be that season. And then maybe now is time for us to, and it's going to be hard for many of us to do this. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen anytime in our time. And it may. It'd be amazing if it did to see it.
Mm-hmm. But
to understand it, look, you may just be doing a lot of things traditionally. Let's go back to the drawing board, what it's supposed to get us to learn how to work together, how to function. And I believe that structure is in Jeremiah 29. Mm-hmm. I believe that structure is there for us to understand how to function and build with each other and start to trust one another, but that's the structure part.
Mm-hmm.
And us not being able to, see a generation after us going in righteousness with our children is something I believe that leads and continues that anarchy before us. I think that anarchy will continue to be there until we start focusing more on how do we make sure the children are the ones that, be set up in a position to where that's the focus.
Yeah, we sit here and, when we talk about the structure that we find all throughout the scripture, this is the reason why I keep going back to the time of the time of the Greeks,
Mhm.
because it is only at this point. And the reason why I keep going back there again, I mean, you touched on it as well, but because I realize that oftentimes on social media, when we as Israel, well, I don't particularly debate anymore, but
Mhm.
as Israel, when we get online and when we're debating each other, we're going back and forth or whatever. We are coming from we're coming from a standpoint where we're not acknowledging the root causes.
Mhm.
We're basically standing in front of a tree and arguing over the leaves
Right.
when it is the root
Mhm.
that's the issue. And when we talk about root causes, you know, you gotta consider. And there was a point that I was going to make earlier. I don't recall the point now, but when we go back to the time of the Greeks, here's the point. There was a incredibly crafty reason for the manufacturing of the Septuagint. A lot of Israel does not like to talk about now. Me personally, I like the Septuagint. The Septuagint, it's pretty, it's a pretty good rendition of the script.
Mhm.
You know, from a textual and from a literary standpoint, it's an incredible work. But that's how we as Israel is looking at it. We're looking at it from the perspective of, okay, does it represent what we as Israel is supposed to represent?
Mhm.
So we're looking at it from our perspective. We have to look at it from the perspective of our oppressors.
Yeah.
The Greeks were not coming into the land to make friends with the Shemitic people.
Right.
They were coming in for conquering purposes.
Mhm.
If we look at how Alexander and his generals moved throughout the known world at that time, unlike other kingdoms prior to the Greeks, they realized that the best way to conquer a people is not through war, because your rulership over a people, if you conquer them by the sword, your rulership only lasts as long as your sword remains sharp. There'll always be uprisings again.
Yeah.
But if you control the people's theology, if you control their culture, you don't have to worry about them uprising.
Yeah.
You never have. That's why when the Egyptians were the world power, people could always rebel because it was about war.
Mhm.
Who had the mightier sword?
Yeah.
Same thing with the Sumerians before them, and then after them, you had the Babylon, the Assyrians.
Mhm.
Then you had the Chaldeans. Then you had the Assyrians came back again. Then you had the Neo-Babylonians. Then you had the Persians, and they all conquered in the same way. Who had the mightier sword? Who could shed more blood?
Right.
The Greeks also came with war, but when Alexander and his so-called philosophers got access to Egypt, and they learned what was going on in Egypt, they were like, oh, so you mean, so we don't have to actually fight all the time.
Right.
We can just inject our doctrine into their minds, and they'll lay their own swords down. Yeah. And so when you look at the Septuagint, it was done with the intent of learning the Israelites the same way they went into Egypt to learn the Egyptians. And right after they learned their writings, what did the Greeks do? They conquered it. Thank you, Cleopatra. You know what I'm saying? They went and conquered it. They did the same thing in Persia. They went in, learned that the Persians believed in something called Zoroastrianism, and they developed their own version of Zoroastrianism called Mithraism, and fed it right back to the Persians. That's why you don't hear about the Persians ever again after that. You never hear about them again. They were done. They just got washed into that nonsense. The Greeks came amongst the Israelites, got the Septuagint, got them to manufacture the Septuagint, and we were able to hold them off as long as we could, thanks to the Maccabees, the Hashmonean dynasty. But still, Once you now put the scriptures into Greek, what happens? Your understanding of truth goes from concrete to abstract.
Right. Yeah.
The moment you bring in abstract concepts, you now can develop alternative doctrine. Even if you're reading the very same text, you can come up with abstract concepts. So now, when you go from that point, and then you fast forward to the first century, and you start seeing all of these divisions: the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Essenes, you know what I'm saying, the Ebionites, the other branch of the Sadducees, all of these different groups, and you're like, well, wait a minute. If they're all coming out of the same book, how is it that they all have these different interpretations? There was no different interpretations in prior years. There was no different interpretations in the time of Ezra.
Right.
Where did these interpretations come from? The moment that our literature and our culture and our language shifted over to being Greek influenced. Once Greek comes in, you can justify any diversion from a doctrine. If you don't believe us, you can go right into the works of Philo.
Yeah.
Go right to the works of Philo. You can go right into the works of Josephus. Josephus, although he's a historian, but he does have theological tractates and treatises in his writing, so you can see where the divisions were now popping up. A person could read Psalm 102:6, and we could read it, and four of us will come up with four completely different understandings. That's not by accident. This is how you conquer a people. When they did it in Africa during the 15, 16, 1700s, it was called what? Cultural colonialism. Mm-hmm. You insert your culture, your ideas, your language, then you don't have to worry about the uprising, because they will go and become in the image of their God.
So you think that's what I know you think it, because I think it. Do you think that's what happened with a lot of us that's been in Israel, the conscious Israelites right now, coming from Christianity? Because we talk about Greco-Roman calendar, so we still have influence in that aspect.
Right.
But do you think a lot of us, as being Israelites, are not aware of that concept that you just brought out, but that we may be following in those footsteps when it comes to these many doctrines that we're coming up with our own ideas, when it comes to passages or when it comes to scripture? Do you think that when you look at some of the, we talk about the Jewish people sometimes, and this is what I was going to go into to help the structure versus anarchy, the codifying. You speak on codifying a lot.
Absolutely.
Do you think that if that's a missing tool that we can add to kind of do some corrective measures from that, what they put out there towards us to mess up our whole thought process of, the concrete understanding of the scriptures? The codifying can help. So I know I asked a few questions. So my main question is, do you think a lot of us as Israel are not aware that we may be falling into that trap ourselves right now?
I think most of us. When I say most of us, I don't like to use, that's so generic, general, most Israelites, like most black men, most black women, we try to stay away from that because it's not really a balanced kind of approach.
Yeah.
But I'm saying this unequivocally.
Yeah.
Most Israelites are unaware of this. Mm-hmm. And how do we know? Because as a people, when we come into this truth, into this walk, what is the first piece of literature that we pick up? The King James Version.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, when someone tells you that you're an Israelite, they don't roll up on you with a Sonsino Tanakh. Mm-hmm. And even if you talk about the New Testament, they never roll up on you with a Nestle Greek text of the New Testament. Yeah. They roll up on you with an English translation.
Yeah.
And it's an English translation that is almost as old as slavery is in the Western world. Yeah. Over 400 years old. So forget about the Greek and how the Greek makes things abstract, because we know that. But the Greek Bible went from the Greek to the Latin Vulgate, from the Latin Vulgate it went into the various Germanic textual traditions, the Frank or the French traditions, the Anglican traditions, and all of this, and then eventually it gets into the what they call the higher English. You know what I'm saying? The late English, and this is when you get to the King James version. So you went from a language that was already abstract.
Yeah.
Then you went into these lower level languages, because these languages are not as sophisticated as Greek. Greek is it's considered a high level European language, and probably because it's Phoenician in origin. So back to the Shemitic, but but you see what I'm saying? So it's a high language. So but it was a high language but abstract. Then you translate the text into these low level languages. The Latin Vulgate. Do you understand what Vulgate means? No, I'm not saying you, obviously.
I know.
But to the people, right? To the people,
yeah.
Vulgate is from the word vulgar.
Right.
It means common. It's like it's the average. It's almost like saying Ebonics. Like, okay, the average person speaks this. So when you say Latin Vulgate, this is not a good thing. It's not saying, yeah, this is a high level text. Like, nah, this is some side street dude was like, all right, let me just go ahead and write this down. It's not a good look.
Yeah.
So so you go from the Latin Vulgate, and then those individuals afterwards that realized the Latin Vulgate was kind of trash, they said, all right, well, you know what? Let's go back to the English. Go back to the Greek, get the Greek manuscript. But this time, instead of putting it in Latin, we'll put it in German, which wasn't that much better. You know, like German in itself is a confused language because it combines the High German, it combines that with the Greek and certain elements of Latin, so it's already confusion in that language. So by the time you get to English, it's all over the damn place. So the first thing that Israelites come into this world knowing about this truth is what? An English translation.
Yeah.
The William Tyndale translation that was co-opted by King James, and it became the authorized version. And that came from the Germanic Bibles, like the Geneva Bible, the Great Bible, whatever. From there, and then from there go back to the Latin Vulgate. So you've got this long line of, I don't want to necessarily say corruption, but confusion.
Yeah.
Sirach, the introduction to Sirach said it best. That anything that is taken out of the Hebrew and put into any of the language, it's not going to have the same force. And that's just talking about Hebrew to Greek, which is not a great leap because the Greek language is rooted in Shemitic phonetics. Yeah. So, but it's still confusion. So imagine now we have English.
And then you're talking about you accompany that with context. You accompany that with you may have the Hebrew, but then not understanding the colloquial, for lack of a better word, maybe using understanding of the words in its context, right? Or subject is being spoken about. It's a lot of things. So
no, but to your point, no, it's most Israelites come through. When I say most, gosh, that's maybe 99.
Yeah.
You know what? No, I'm going to go ahead. To be responsible, I'm going to say 99% of Israelites come through the truth via English translation. I got to leave 1%, just for anybody who might be the exception to the rule.
I would never see anybody come into it.
Like Yemenite Israelites.
Yeah.
But I want to do that just so that we're being responsible.
Right.
Because we say 100%, now we have to, you know what I'm saying? We have to sit on that number. Yeah. No, 99%, but because we're all coming through the English. And I'm not saying that English is horrible or whatever the case may be. English is actually a pretty good language if you know how to finagle in the language. But we're not talking about just finagling. We're talking about how we're able to extract the truth of our supreme power.
Yeah.
Extracting that knowledge, extracting that truth, and putting it in a form that's palatable to us today. This is where it becomes tricky. And part of the lack of structure, this whole thing of lack of structure and anarchy, all you have to do is look at what it has produced today. We, for the first time in the history of Israel, and the first time in the history of our people, and I challenge anybody out there right now who's watching or may watch this after the fact.
Watching back on, yeah.
I challenge anybody to show me 3 doctrines. They can be big doctrines or little doctrines. Show me 3 doctrines that all of Israel agree on.
Right.
Just 3. And I'll make it even. I'll make it even easier. Name me 1 that all of Israel agrees on.
Yeah.
And you can't even say Deuteronomy 28 because there are Israelites today that don't believe that Deuteronomy 28 is talking about the transatlantic slave trade. So we can't even use Deuteronomy 28. Mm-hmm. That's our ancestry.com.
Yeah.
We can't agree on that. Because we already don't agree on the name.
Yeah.
We don't agree on the times for the Moedim. We don't agree on what constitutes a calendar, whatever. Like, is it solar? Is it lunar? Is it lunisolar? Whatever. Is it Enochian or whatever? Like, so you go down the list. Those of you who are watching, you go down the list of every doctrine you can think of and ask yourself, do all of Israel agree on this particular point? Yeah. And you're going to find out that we may literally not agree on anything.
Yeah.
If that's not anarchy, then I don't know what is. But again, this is not necessarily to put it all on them. It's not to just throw it all on them like, yeah, man, these brothers. Just because we're in the same boat. Because there are things that I stand on that, regardless of who people think I am and no chief, whatever like that, they're gonna be like, I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah.
No matter how swift and changeable you are, and how knowledgeable, whatever, there's gonna be individuals who are gonna say, yeah, I'm rocking with, I'm saying, with Beit Ma'azan, but I don't know about all that. All that order they talking about. That,
I'm sure that's the case, man.
Of course it is. You know what I'm saying? Because we're operating from a platform that allows you to have opinions and personal beliefs on things that doesn't require adhering to context.
Yeah.
Give you an example, because I've done it a few times. Ask a person, have you ever looked at the word opinion in the Bible? In your Bible. Like, go on Blue Letter, go on get your Strong's Concordance, whatever like that. Mm-hmm. Because we know what an opinion is. Opinions are viewpoints that are not necessarily rooted in truth. It doesn't have to be. That's why it's an opinion. I can have an opinion about something that's not rooted in fact.
Yeah.
That's why it's an opinion. You come to find out that the translation of the word opinion, like the word opinion, is in the Bible. Mm-hmm. But then you look at the Hebrew word that it's attached, that it derives from, you're like, that's not opinion. Mm-hmm. The word is da'ah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Knowledge.
Right.
These are concrete terms.
Mm-hmm.
Because Hebrew did not have the concept of opinion. Mm-hmm. We spoke about this a couple of years ago with that you shall have one manner of law.
Yep.
And you come to find out that, well, it does not say law in the text. Yep. In the Hebrew. You
one manner of judgment, right?
Right. And not even manner. Because even manner.
One judgment.
One judgment
in Hebrew, though.
Right. In the Hebrew.
We got this English,
right?
Man. It's translations. I'm telling you all.
It is, as our beloved brothers from ISBK would say, it is the damn devil that the Bible speaks of. You know what I'm saying? These concepts that we get in English. So when we read it, we're like, oh, one manner of law. So if I say, you got to be one manner of person, meaning a type of. Mm-hmm. So when you say one type of law, it implies multiple. Mm-hmm. But manner is not in the text.
Right.
So you shall have one judgment.
That's it.
Judgment means there is no opinions. Mm-hmm. There was not your viewpoints are irrelevant. Mm-hmm. What does the text say? If this is what it says, this is what we go with. Nothing to talk about. Hebrew does not have these concepts of opinions and beliefs and, my viewpoint. Viewpoint means what? You are deviating from truth.
Mhm.
Because if it's true, you wouldn't have a viewpoint.
Yeah.
If it's true.
Yeah.
If I say I'm a man, there's no opinion about that. If someone says, well, that's your view. No, that's a biological fact. There is no opinion on that.
And that's what separates the structure from the anarchy. I used to watch a TV show called Sons of Anarchy. And my Isha said this. This past Yom Shabbat, or maybe it was another Yom Shabbat, either this one or last Yom, the one before.
Right.
Even in anarchy, right? We are so far removed from understanding how we once moved and how the Supreme King wants us to move today.
Right.
She has said, even in anarchy, and I know it's true because the TV show Sons of Anarchy, they still had structure.
Right. Which is
they had to operate, even as Sons of Anarchy, they had to operate with something like this. Let's go to this real quick. I'm going to bring this up. And I know when I go to this, people are going to, it's Devarim, Deuteronomy 16:18. That's then. No, it's now. Well, no, this is talking about for when you go to the land. Cool. But we just read this past Yom Shabbat that the Most High said, you have polluted my, maybe not polluted, profaned.
Right,
Profane my set apart name, even outside of the land where I exiled you in.
Right.
He had literally, we did horrible in the land.
Mm-hmm.
Then he exiled us in different countries. Mm-hmm. It said, this goes for everyone that says, look, we don't got to really be doing that here. Exiled us in all these different countries. Mm-hmm. And he has said, even when I sent you there, you profaned my set apart. It says holy, but I know set apart name. How? Because of your conduct. You didn't even establish certain things. I'm showing you here in Jeremiah 29 what you ought to do in your exilic moments. So I want to go here and I'm going to pull this up real quick.
And that's really insane when you think about it. This is also, it shows you how bad that we were operating even in those lands. But how do you profane an already profane land?
Yes.
The land is already corrupted.
Yes.
How do you go in and make something dirty that it's already dirty, and you're just gonna be like, we're just gonna really go dirty. This is bad.
And that lets us know that he still wanted us to even operate. It's like if your parents put you on punishment.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do this, right? That don't mean since you're on punishment, okay, act a fool. No, you're on punishment. I still want you to show me what it is I wanted you to do from the beginning.
Right.
Show me that even though you're grounded, you're still going to be a righteous and a respectful child of mine.
That's right.
At school, when you go over your cousin's house, you can't watch no TV. Let's see if you go over your cousin's house, you're going to still watch TV or not. And people do it, of course.
Yes.
But the parents still want to see if you're going to do that. So let's go to this real quick. I want to bring this up real quick. See if it pops up. There you go. Why is that showing? I think I'm on the wrong one. Let me go here. Yeah, I think I'm on the wrong one. Give me a second. Pull this off. So we're in Deuteronomy 16. For those that want to know where we're at, this should be it right here. There we go. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so it can be seen. Kind of hard to be seen for myself. All right. So Deuteronomy 16 and 18. I'm just using the concept. I think the concept is really needed, right? It says you should appoint judges. Let's go point by point. Why do we need judges today? Right? Most people say that you can't judge, only the Most High can judge me, right? I'm going to operate within the spirit. We always talk about this. I'm not going to go into no full teaching. But what I want to say, the separation from anarchy and structure, the structure is going to have something in place to when matters happen, it can be corrected. Mm-hmm. What puts us in the anarchy state is that we have nothing to correct it. No one to correct it, right? So if we're profaning his set apart name, be ye set apart as I am set apart, which means I have structure and order. I want you to have structure and order. So this says, you shall appoint judges and officers in all your towns. Of course, these are not our towns. We get it.
Mm-hmm.
We're in America.
Right.
These are not our cities and our towns, but we're within it. If you don't like me bringing out Deuteronomy, I'll just take us to Jeremiah 29.
Right.
And it tells you what to do in their cities, right?
Are there people who actually have a problem with going to Deuteronomy for this purpose?
I'm doing it because I understand that people say, well, we're not in the land. We can't do this. We can't establish this. But that's not true, because we see so many other groups establishing it in not their land as well. They have established order in another land that they are not from, and that's more successful than we are.
Well, if that's the case, and I know this is a little bit it does. It kind of does play into anarchy, because this is proof of the anarchy. The anarchy. If this were the case, I would pose and say, well, all right, that doesn't apply. This only applies to the land. It doesn't apply. Okay, does Deuteronomy 28:15 through 68 apply to the land, or does it apply to captivity or exile? Yeah, that's talking about exile. Okay, well, what about the first 14 verses? Is that for the land or for the captivity?
Right.
Because it can't be both.
Right.
Those first 14 verses can't be for the land, and then the other ones are for captivity. It's got to be one or the other.
Yeah.
And what about Deuteronomy 30?
Yep.
Is that for the land? Or no, because I'm sorry. It says that you shall think about the blessings and the curses in the land that you shall be in, and you will what? You will. But anyway. So, but once again, the anarchy allows you to pick and choose when you want to apply things in the here and now, and another time, no, that's only for the land.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Well, then honor your father and mother when you get home.
That's
back to the land. But now, but again, we talk about structure and we talk about anarchy. This is proof that anarchy is alive and well.
And we got to continue to, and this platform, us speaking on these matters, is to really bring out that it's important that we understand we need to still do these so we can be prepared when that time does come that everyone is waiting on, speaking on.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about this, especially on Shabbat. We're waiting on it. We're speaking on these matters, but are we prepared? And the best way, he's letting us, you shall appoint judges and officers in all your towns that the Supreme King is giving you,
right, according
to your tribes. And guess what? He's giving us where we're at now because he put us in. Because, so
you think
it's here for us. We need, I'll say this. We're over here in America. There's so many people being hurt in relationships. I say this all the time, me and my Ishak. So many people being hurt in relationships, men, women, from relationships as far as man and woman being together, or even relationships in communities, whatever it may be. Why? Because we're not establishing righteous. What's the word that the scriptures talk about when it says when someone has proven themselves? He said able. He said pick able men, righteous, able, right? Able meaning they have shown that they are consistent. They have shown that they have integrity. Right. They have shown these things before the people, right, and before you. So we're not picking these men and or women, right, to be in these in a situation to where people will not only gravitate to them and remove themselves. These are these. Right. When we establish this will allow for us to know who's wanting to be a part of this or not. And I know that's what I'm saying right now. It's not something amazing, but he's telling us.
No, it kind of is.
He's telling us this through all our literature. This is what we need to do, all the way from Devarim, what we're reading now, all the way to Nebaim, right, the prophets. Yeah. And we read this. So Shalom,
If you
everyone.
would-
Those that's tuning in.
No, you would. Well, anyway, yeah, good.
Yeah, those that's tuning in right now, those that's tuning back in later. Right now we're talking about structure and versus anarchy. Let us know what's your thoughts on structure versus anarchy. Are you okay with the anarchy that we're seeing within our community? Do you believe that we have the structure that the Most High, the Supreme King, has been commanding us to, operate within, even in the countries that He pushed us in because of our ways? Are we executing it? Do you believe that you are someone that's accepting that type of structure that we need, or are you someone that's on the anarchy side? Be honest. Be honest with yourself. And this isn't a push. You don't even have to respond on the last part if you don't want to, but be honest with yourself and see if how you're moving is aligning with what we read. Right? Then you got to ask yourself if you want to change that. We have the ability to change it. We have the ability to be righteous. We have the ability to be obedient. We have the ability to be structured even in exilic periods that we're in now. We're in exile, but we see everyone else doing it, but we can't do it. Well, in Black Wall Street, we did it, and you see what happened. Look, I don't know any of the individuals who's a part of the Black Wall Street, right? What we call Black Wall Street, I should say. I don't know how righteous they were. I don't know who they served.
Right.
I don't know if they understood how we were supposed to move. I don't know that. But my question that I have always asked when it comes to Black Wall Street is if we tried to do that today and we was honestly righteous, moved according to righteousness, and called upon the Supreme King,
Right.
and that's the issue right there you talk about too, would we see that same outcome? I don't know. I don't think we'll see the same outcome. This is my opinion.
This kind of goes back to a conversation that we were having. I don't know if we did it on an actual Sage Talk episode. It might have been in one of our, off-camera discussions or whatever.
Yeah.
But we had a conversation about how Marcus, the late great Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who had an idea. He wasn't the first one with the idea, but he was the first one to try to concretely act upon it, about getting the Black people in the Americas back to the land of Africa or wherever they decided, Ethiopia, whatever happened. And for the time, it was an incredible endeavor. Now, the movement failed. The actual moving back, the Black Star Line, the ships that Marcus Garvey had obtained for the purpose, the failure happened because it says, according to the history, was that the ships, when they were going to board the ships, they come to find out that the ships had been tampered with. There were actually holes in the hull. So it basically like a slow leak. They would have got out to the ocean, it would have started sinking.
Yeah.
Now, again, there's some people who question whether that's the truth or whether that was just a way that maybe some of our people at that time tried to mythologize, if that's even a term, to create a myth around it so it didn't look like a straight failure. Whether it failed because of lack of leadership or whether it failed because of the tampering with the ships by the government, ultimately doesn't matter. What matters is that there was a blueprint.
Yeah.
The blueprint only proved what? That it can be done. So now we know that it can be done. And we celebrate. We always celebrate Marcus Garvey. We celebrate Black Star Line, all of this good stuff. And I was one of the people that used to do it back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Marcus Garvey. But the problem, of course, is that then we had someone who came along 50 years later, the late, great, honorable Ben Ami Ben Israel, who even in his own writings said that he was moved by what he learned from the example of Marcus Garvey, learned from the example of Bishop Turner, from the Bishop Prophet William Prouties and Prophet Cherries and all of those Israelite elders who came before him, he learned from all of them. Almost sounds like a text from Dawid, right?
Mm-hmm.
He learned from all of his teaching. And he went about to do the very same thing and succeeded and prospered.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody talks about it outside of America. In America, people don't, they act like it never happened.
Yeah.
So what happens is that now, and this again goes right back to the anarchy, that we will celebrate the failure more than we'll celebrate the successes.
Yeah.
The reason why we love failure is because we get a chance to revel in the idea of it, but don't have to take accountability in moving on. Because we can say, yeah, man, well, if it would have worked, I'd be the first one on the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're saying this now 100 years after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
But when Ben Ami did the same thing, and it was successful, when they actually got over there and they began to prosper, you had Israelites over in America that had the opportunity to go over and was actually invited.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, I mean, prophecy says that, a certain time we got to go back. And it's like, oh, well, we're right back to the Kagat principle.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not time yet.
Yeah.
So if it's not time, then we should not be complaining about our condition.
Yeah.
If it's not time, then suck it up.
Mm-hmm.
But we've gotten to the point where we have become comfortable in failure. So this is why we'll celebrate Black Wall Street. Why? Because the idea was incredible, but no one talks about the actual failure of it.
Yeah.
They'll talk about how the white man destroyed it, but we're not talking about the white man destroying it. We're talking about if we had the blueprint, if the blueprint was clear, why hasn't African Americans replicated it?
Right.
And then when you have the ones that did replicate it, you take someone like Yahweh Ben Yahweh,
Mm-hmm.
who did exactly what Black Wall Street, to the point where Miami was pretty much ran by Israelites in white turban. They ran all of the chapters of the NAACP in the Miami-Dade County area. All of the main real estate was owned by what they called the Yahwehs. You know what I'm saying? They owned the hotels, they owned the fast food restaurant, Crown Chicken. They had the limousine services. All of this stuff was owned. Miami was pretty much Israelite town.
Yeah.
And we saw the success in that. But the only thing that, as Israelites, the only thing that we were able to focus on was what? Why is he calling himself Yahweh? Okay, then if you want to call him Yahweh, all right, call him Hulan Mitchell. That's his government name. Right. Or call him Moses Mikael, because that was the first Hebrew name. Call him that then. Call him anything else. Don't have to. Just call him YBY, but focus on what was accomplished.
Yeah.
But we don't do that. Why? Because the success and order and structure is a reminder of the work that we all have to do. And many people are not ready for the work. They're only ready for the talk. That's my assessment of that. So so when you're bringing this stuff out, and you bring up a scripture like this in Devarim, and you have people that love to sidestep stuff like that. They're sidestepping it because there is an accountability that comes with it. Because now you're going to have to operate on this.
Yeah. And we complain. So here's the thing, right? And I don't, because it's like a revolving record. We complain about so many different things, and I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I get it, especially those that are sincere.
Right. It's all, brother Justin. You're feeling exactly what all Israelites who are thinking above, every Israelite is not a below ground pool. Some of us are above ground pools, and that's not a good thing. There's people who operate on a different wavelength. Some Israelites are only in this walk because they didn't have an identity of their own. We're not talking about the identity of our ancestors. They did not have an identity. They were walking throughout life, and they lacked power. They lacked any kind of influence. They lacked anything significant that would make them stand out among their peers. And this walk gave them something to fill a void.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to tie them over until they find something else to fill the void. So everyone's not here for the same reasons. We might wear the same turbans, but we're not going in the same direction. So, and it's frustrating. But and again, this is where the anarchy comes in. There's anarchy because not only is there no central base for base rules that we follow, but there's also no central authority to enforce it.
Yeah, that's it right there.
There's no central authority. Our people we tend to shun the idea of authority, because once you start bringing up the term authority, people start getting into their feelings. What you gonna be an authority over me?
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah. Because as a people, we have shown that we cannot govern ourselves.
That's it.
You don't believe it? Look at the condition of the Israelite community, especially online. We'll say of the online community. We are in Israelite groups on Facebook that if you just take away the Hebrew names,
yes,
I want to say something, but I don't want it to ding the algorithm. But
you can.
It sounds like a bunch of NIGGAs.
Yeah,
that's all it sounds like. It sounds like that. If you take away the Hebrew names from these individuals, it sounds like pure madness in some of these groups. And again, not to necessarily blame them, because they've inherited the anarchy that existed before they even got here. They walked into the anarchy. Yeah. So for them, this is normal. So even when we might go into some of these groups and be like, hey, yo, why y'all debating on this, whatever like that? They don't even see it as debating. They feel like, nah, we're just bringing out truth. But they don't even understand what truth is, because in their mind, there can be multiple truths.
Right.
Which in itself is insane. The fact, if there's more than one truth, then it's not true.
We're doing the same thing that you brought out earlier, stemming from the Greeks, like you said. And, we never really looked at, like, even within the first century, having so many different ideologies, or theologies. What's up? Theologies, ideologies. No, same thing. Within same situation, same subjects between each other. But the part I want to bring out real quick, real brief. We'll read this right here. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. We will read this and would not be like, you know what can we do to be different?
Right.
We're supposed to learn from those before us. What can we do to be different in this? Right? Some people do it. That's why, some camps, congregations, assemblies are there. But as I get why people just want to move along. I get it. Yeah. I don't believe it's right. I believe it causes us to fail more than we think. I believe we fail more not being a part of something. But then you have, what's the scripture I want to use? There's so many different scriptures. I'm not gonna say that because I'm not putting that on the people. But why don't we ask this? Why don't we? In those days, there was no king in Israel. There's no king in Israel right now, other than the supreme king, the Most High. To me, everyone did what was right in his own eyes.
Right. And you know what's sad about that text? Because it actually appears a couple times in the book of Judges.
Oh yeah, Judges. Yep.
The sad thing about it, I think Judges 3 too, is that this is probably,
Want me to go back to that?
No, because I think because what was that? Judges
21, 25.
Yeah, I think it also pops up in Judges 19 as well.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is so everyone does that which is right in their own eyes. But even in those times, because we see how Yehoshua ben Nun approached it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh my God, everyone's doing things completely different. No, you still only had two things. It was like either you're going to worship the gods on the other side of the river, that your fathers worship. So it says, listen, choose.
Right.
Which goes into a whole other thing about, proselytizing. Joshua wasn't trying to proselytize. He's like, listen, you figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
If your heart says to serve these deities on the whatever, then go do what you do.
Yeah.
As for me and mine over
Mhm.
here, we're gonna do this.
Mm-hmm.
So even in those times, it was still the understanding that either you serve Yah or you serve madness.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like, well, you could serve Yah, and you could still kind of serve Baal because I mean that's true too. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
it wasn't like no one was trying to justify it on a righteous level. Like, nah, you serve the demons and whatever. So even when we pull scriptures like that, the sad part is that when you're doing that which is right in your own eyes, that also includes individuals who might actually be right.
Right.
But it won't even matter because I'm doing what's actually right, but I'm doing it right next to someone who is performing madness. So even your righteousness gets overshadowed by the anarchy.
Yeah.
But you wanted to pull out something else with that text as well.
No,
I don't know if I cut into you.
No. I was bringing that portion out because I think that's what we're struggling with. I think those that are teachers out there, leaders out there, those that are actually doing it the way that we should be doing it, we're struggling with that. You're combating so many different individuals, so many different doctrines, so many different understandings. Because as I stated this past Yom Shabbat, the Spirit. I'm being led by the Spirit. How your life is not in alignment at all with what we have been told or showed. I say showed how to move. And it's harming, it's hurting a lot of people out there. And that's the things that I not struggle with, but I have. It's like, man, you just want the people. Look, okay, let's not focus on all these doctrines. Let's just focus on conduct first.
Right.
Let's build some, I get the old ways. I get all the people the shoulders I stand on. Okay, we want to show them the basics and learn about the commandments and all. That is good. I think that's important. I think that's needed.
Right.
I think that should be the case. I believe, in addition to that we need to really focus on that conduct. We need to really focus on figuring out, okay, what's their devices that they're having in their lives right now that we could tweak and help fix those things, and then we could usher in the commandments the way that we push it, the laws and stuff like that, or figure out a way to implement the laws. But I think a lot of us as teachers don't know the laws enough to be able to kind of even give them little pieces of it without pushing it. I don't think many of us, not a lot more. No. So many of us know the law enough culturally to help those little devices that people are going through, the struggles that they have, to make it apply for 2026. We just read. Nothing wrong with that. I get it.
Right. It is what it is for the concept.
Right. But those same people that's learning from that, or the same people that's learning from social media, they're just gaining knowledge. They're not finding out how to fix the struggles that they either know about or they don't know about that's happening within them.
Right.
And that's why you need teachers, righteous ones. That's why you need elders and guidance, people that can see something about you that you don't see, that can help you overcome whatever you've been struggling with. But we won't do it. We love the anarchy.
You think about, especially when you get into the field of pastoral counseling, ironically, and you think about the clients that eventually you'll have. You're sitting down, you're having conversations with clients, and they're giving you their backstory of their upbringing, whether it was their childhood upbringing or their experiences and in marriages. And I'll use the example of you say women, for instance, who will come to seek counseling because they were in what we now call a toxic marriage, right? A marriage in which they were being physically abused every day. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not on Sundays.
Right.
You know, but they're being abused every single day. The funny thing about how the mind works, and you know, we have this term in psychology that's, I think it's a little overly used. Or it's either overly used or it's not used in the best context, and that is Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
And the reason, you know, when you think about Stockholm syndrome, this originated from the hijacking of an airline, in which the people, they're mortified by the fact that, oh my God, you know, hijack, what's going to happen? Is it going to crash into a building? Is it going to kill us? Like, what's going to happen or whatever? And there's a psychological event that occurs within minutes, in which you go from hating the hijacker because you're like, oh my God, this guy's going to kill us. You know, like, you evil bat. But there's something that happens psychologically where your mind tells you there's nothing you can do to change this outcome. This is going to happen. And in order for the mind to protect itself from going out of its mind, it begins this process of viewing the hijacker as a human being, because you're hoping that you'll find something humanistic about the hijacker, because it's the only way that you'll be able to deal with the idea that you're about to crash into the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
Because your brain can't fathom the idea that you're going to die. So it has to create a narrative in which you begin to appeal to the possible humanity of your captor. You'll start to try to find anything in this person that might be humanistic or pleasant.
Yeah.
To the point where you'll even begin to see things from the perspective of the captor. So if the captor, you know, was like, yeah, see, we're taking over this airline because, you know, these British, you know, parliamentary bastards, they're doing blah, 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 whatever like that. You'll be like, yeah, you know, you're right, man. The British, they're evil, man. And you will eventually start to buy into the narrative, and your mind creates this shift where even after, there's a lot of recorded occasions of this event, where by the time the emergency is over, unless they are able to rectify the situation, they capture the hijacker or whatever, that person psychologically has been altered so much that even after they are safe, they don't change their view of the hijacker or the system. They'll still see the system as, you're evil and you oppressed this man, and that's the reason why he had to do what he did. Meanwhile, that's not why he did it. Yeah. He was going to kill you, but you. So in psychology, we understand that people, they get accustomed to abuse out of necessity because their mind cannot fathom the reality of it. So what do you do? You accustom yourself to anarchy. The Israelites, just like an abused woman, knows that they're being abused. They understand the chaos, but they're like, you know what? It's the only thing I know. I don't know what order is.
Yeah.
Why? Because most of us didn't have order in our own household.
That's a fact.
We didn't have both of our parents, and even if we did, it might have been chaotic in the, in the house. So we don't know what order is generally, and we definitely don't know what biblical order is.
Right.
And we, without a question, don't know what Tanakh order is.
Yeah.
Biblical is a lower level.
Yeah.
Tanakh order is some other. We have no clue. And the first thing that a lot of us start to think of when we hear order is what? We don't think about it from the perspective of, wow, yeah, we get order. This is what I'll be able to get from this order. Mm-hmm. They're looking at, what do I have to give up? Oh, my autonomy. So if I want to go out and be a whore on the Shabbat,
yeah,
you mean I can't do that anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, damn. Oh, I can't. Oh, you mean I can't eat duck? Oh, man, I can't. Oh, I can't. There's always something that you're looking at that you have to give up, and so order doesn't look like anything appealing. It looks like it's restrictive. It's going to strip me of what I want to do. And then the question is, do I really want that that type of order, and many of us don't. This is why Facebook groups with the chaos that we see. This is why those groups have 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people.
Yeah.
And the groups that are actually about order and trying to establish something significant,
They got 25 people.
can't even break 100 people.
Or 27 people, I should say.
Right, 27. Is that the real number?
That's a real number.
Okay, which is a damn shame. But it's
And
indicative.
nobody posted but like 2 people.
Right, and gotta post more. But yeah, but you see what ends up happening is that the spaces that are about chaos, we attract to that. Why? Because it's what we know. This is the reason why if you go to the average Hebrew Israelite camp or congregation or assembly, you can always get a 2 or 3 hour breakdown of Deuteronomy 28, verse 15 through 68. But when was the last time you've seen a 2 or 3 hour presentation on the first 14 verses?
Right. Yeah.
Because we don't know what the blessings are. We read the blessings, we read what it says, but many of us have never experienced it. But we have experienced 15 through 68. We've experienced this nonsense.
Yeah.
We've experienced the chaos. We've experienced the idea of groping at noonday as the blind gropes in the darkness. You know what I'm saying? Being out of our minds and the oppression, all of this stuff is relatable because we have a history of dysfunction. Mm-hmm. So this is why Deuteronomy 28 will always reign supreme as like the go-to, because we identify with oppression. Because we are a people that was raised in oppression. All we know is oppression. So when you start talking about the blessings, it almost sounds like mythology. It sounds like something that's in the sky it doesn't even sound real. Yeah. When was the last time your storehouse was full? Now nowadays we don't have to say so. Now we can say your bank account. When was the last time your bank account was so ridiculous where you're like, you know what, I can afford to miss 2, 3 paychecks and I'm not struggling. Right. A lot of us we don't know what that is, but what we do know is what. Man, this week is gonna be crazy. I don't know, but we understand it and we thrive in that chaos. What's the famous saying that we always, life be life, and we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll figure out how to exist in chaos, but we cannot have any extended conversations about the blessings.
You know what's crazy? And I'm pausing on purpose. You know what's crazy? The order that the Supreme King has given us will answer those questions that we're having, or answer those problems that we're having. Right? We're supposed to be moving together. That's what the tithe and the donation, all that stuff that we are against is the very thing that can help us, a lot of us, what we're going through. But it requires us being together. And it requires us not being together just for a small amount of time, because that stuff takes time to build up. Build the storehouse, build the Kahal bank account, or Kahal bank, the community bank, the community or the assembly bank. So that way people that are within it, when times are hard, you're able to help. Now, here's a caveat with that. The whole purpose of coming together is to be able to sift through the problems that we are all having. Right. So, for example, you are someone that's continuing to have problems with money. Okay. If you have a community, you have people in place. Hey, let's help this brother or this sister learn how to manage it better. Mm-hmm. Because if you continue to come to me as something that now at this point is something that you're doing wrong. Mm-hmm. But if you're moving by yourself, it's nobody that can help you. You having relinquish some of your time and need to learn from these elders or these teachers on how to operate and be successful in that. So now you'll be one of the people, if you're successful in that, adding to help someone else. Yeah. It's a lot.
Right. And this is why we said from the very beginning of it, this is why I say that it's some of the most important conversations that we can have, but it's also most rarely spoken of.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to admit, not only are they out of their mind, that we are out of our mind as a people, but we definitely don't want to admit that we are conscientiously out of, like, we're knowledgeable of the fact that we are. There's a thing that 5%ers used to say back in the days in the 80s in New York or whatever, or whatever 5%ers was. I don't know how deep the 5%er Nation of Islam was out in Chicago in the 60s and 70s and 80s, whatever. But there's a thing called triple stage darkness, where you're ignorant, but you're ignorant to the fact that you're ignorant. But even your ignorance of your ignorance is an ignorance. So there's levels to your ignorance. So it's like, so for instance, when we came out of the streets, right, and we first heard, let's say, Elijah Muhammad. So we came out of that level of darkness of being street cats or whatever, and now we're like, oh man, message to the black, okay, we're rocking with that, we're reading it. But there's still a level of ignorance because I see what this is saying, but I still don't know who I am. So I like with me, I transitioned from that. Then I was into the Malachi York stuff. Now going further into the cultural stuff. Now I'm like, oh, okay, like the importance of the language, okay, and whatever. So now the ignorance that I had before, that ignorance has been shed. Now I'm in the light, but I'm still in a level of darkness because I still don't know who Yah is.
Right.
So there's this. So it's like you're ignorant to the fact that you're ignorant of your ignorance. There's like layers of it. It's like archaeology in reverse. It's like there's layers to your ignorance, and you have to, instead of digging down, you have to be able to climb out of these different levels. And so many of us in Israel, we are at a point in our lives when we come into this walk, we're not even aware that many of the things that we are learning is rooted in the ignorance of the preceding generation. And they took things from the preceding generations, and so on and so forth. This is why, and I, by no means, and I think we both agree with this, we're not suggesting that people should move alone and all that stuff like that. We're not on that type of time, but I'm always, in these type of situations, I'm always reminded of that scene in The Matrix with the character Cypher, who probably now is one of my favorite Matrix characters, like that, between him and the Merovingian. But Cypher, he made this statement. There's two statements he made. He was talking to Neo, and he said, "Hey, I know what you're thinking, because I've been thinking the same thing since I got here. Why, oh why did I not take the blue pill? Why? Because Cypher understood. He began to understand the nature of truth and the difficulty in truth. Yeah. I actually wrote a book about it called Cypher and Solomon. Shameless plug. Shameless plug. But he understood that when the veil was taken over his eyes, he realized that being out of the matrix, being out of the darkness, is not always what it cracks up to be. It's a lot of work now, because there's a lot of responsibility that comes with being now in the truth. Yeah. And he was like, you know what? Maybe I should have took the blue pill. Yeah. So there's that segment there, but then there's another segment which I swear it's one of the most overlooked segments of the movie Matrix, where he is about to give up Morpheus to Agent. He's sitting in the restaurant, and Agent says, "So, do we have a deal, Mr. Reagan?" And he said, the steak. He was like, "I know the steak is not real. When I put the steak in my mouth, it's juicy, it's delicious." He was like, "Whoa, yeah, hey yo, yeah, you wild." But he's like, he says, but after 7 or 8 years in the Matrix, he said, "You know what I've learned after 7 years?" And he takes the steak, and he eats, and he's chewing it. He was like, "Ignorance is bliss." And that's, and when I first saw the movie back in the days, in 1999, whatever like that, I thought he was out of his damn mind. Like, what? But I understand, because many Israelites are going through that right now, and that's why many of them they love to stay in the anarchy, because it's what they know. He's basically saying, well, yo, listen, ignorance is bliss, because there's no responsibility, there's no accountability with ignorance.
Yeah.
You can do you. Going back to the sect that you brought up, that in those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did that was right in his own eyes. There's no accountability. There's no king. It's anarchy. That's the whole point. That's what anarchy is. Lack of leadership, lack of rulership.
Mm-hmm.
So he's looking at it from the perspective of, you know what? I wish I didn't know what I know.
Yeah.
I really do.
And what's crazy is, even when it says in those days there was no king, it was a king. And everyone's doing right, doing what they think is right in their own eyes. It was a king.
That's
The Most High.
That's crazy.
Crazy. I know it wasn't no physical king, but when that was written, I know they understood like it was a king.
Bro. There were kings all over the place.
Yeah.
You talk about this, again, we understand, Yah, that's a whole nother level king. That's a
Yeah.
Moshe.
Yes.
He was king in Yeshua. He was king. Who was the next king in Israel? Yehoshua.
You gonna get some people that's gonna look at you like, what?
I know that. and that's fine. But you know what I'm saying? And that's fine. But the beautiful thing about truth is that it does not require that you understand it right now. You'll catch it when you catch it.
Yeah.
But the rulership, the idea that if Moshe is called king in Yeshurun, what made him king? There was never a coronation. Mm-hmm. There's never a point where it says, yes, he's going to be. No, there's an understanding that rulership, being the shepherd, the ruler, the lawgiver, yes, it came from the Most High, but who did the people look to? Moshe,
right?
The man of Yah, the Ish of Yah. He's that guy. Mm-hmm. And he told, and what happened? What did the Most High say, Yehoshua? As I was with Moshe, I will be with you. Okay. Yehoshua ben Nun was that guy. Mm-hmm. He was what Moshe would have been had Moshe crossed over to the land with them. Okay. He took that position. Mm-hmm. Ezra, when you look at the opening of Pirkei Avot, from Yehoshua, it went to what? The judges. Yeah. The judges, what is a judge?
You're ruling over certain matters.
Right.
Every matter, shoot.
Deborah, when the people, when they came to Deborah for judgment, like, listen, what do we do?
Right.
This is what you'll do. Mm-hmm. That's rulership. Yeah. Then you go Shemuel, because again, the people all gravitated towards Shemuel. This is the reason why when we get to the time,
the king was that's another topic.
Oh no, let's bring it out. No,
they fear Shemuel, man.
Yeah, they're like, man, this dude is a whatever. Yeah, but this is the reason why when we get to Shaul, this is why these things should not even be. It shouldn't have been surprising when we like, man, why do people want? Well, because they already had a history of having physical kings. There was already a history of physical rulership. Mm-hmm. The only problem with Shaul was that Shaul was not who Yah had put in place. Moshe was put in place. Mm-hmm. Yehoshua was put in place. Mm-hmm. The judges, because you shall establish judges and whatever. These things were sanctioned by Torah. Yeah. What they were looking for in Shaul was not simply a king. They said, "What we want a king like the nations have their kings." Yeah. This is a completely different argument. Yeah. Yeah. Because if having a physical king was the issue, we would have never had Moshe. In fact, there would have been no Dawid. Yah would have been like, no. Dawid, no, he's a good kid, but no, I'm only king. There is no Dawid. No, no Shalom, no nothing. No. The people wanted a king like the nations had their kings. And Shaul was it. And it's unfortunate because I think Shaul was a pretty decent dude. He had his issues. And when you got somebody like Dawid comes up, I understand why, and I know it's a little bit kind of a little off the topic a little bit, but I understand why Shaul felt the way he felt.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't really say that Shaul was a bad king.
Mm-hmm.
It's only until Dawid comes on the scene and you start to see that the spirit of Yah is not with him anymore, and a different spirit is on him. That's when we look at Shaul like, man, he was trying to kill Dawid. But before that, the people loved him. Yeah, man, look what he did. He was bodying Philistines left and right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? He killed thousands of the Philistines of our enemies, but Dawid, he did tens of thousands.
Yeah.
So, Shaul was in this very unfortunate position. It was a position that he couldn't really win. Like he was gonna even if he wins, he's gonna still lose because the people wanted a king that was reflective of the Philistines, the very same people that they were oppressing them. But they wanted a king like the very people that were oppressing them. Imagine that. We hate the Philistines, but we want a king just like the Philistines. That's insanity.
Yeah.
But this is why anarchy was able to be so prevalent in these times, because the people were, as we are today, we were out of our damn minds. How do you want a king like the very people who is oppressing you? Don't you understand that the oppression is going to be the same?
Yeah. Well, that's another topic. Now we ain't gonna go into that topic. But man,
I mean, but it's like I said, it's again, anarchy. It's not this thing. It's like when we hear about anarchy, we often we tend to place it in this kind of like in this position of people just randomly saying, you know what, I'm just gonna rebel against the Most High. I'm just gonna do whatever. That's not how anarchy happens.
Right.
There's a Facebook post that I put up a few days ago, but I put it up periodically over the years, and it says that matter of fact, let me just go ahead and pull it up. Because I think that when we talk about the idea of anarchy, we think it's this one moment in time where chaos just pops up on the scene and then everybody is just chaotic. No, anarchy starts with little compromises here and there.
Yeah.
There's, I'm trying to pull it up right now. I think it's coming up right. A journey to apostasy begins with a single compromise. So none of this ever happens immediately.
Yeah.
Everything that you're seeing in the Israelite communitas at this point, it's not something that just happened last year on Facebook. This is stuff that even spills over back into the 90s. Certain issues that wasn't handled, that wasn't dealt with. We always talk about the big, the big letdown. Because that issue was never fixed. It was left to just like, hey, listen, we're just going to change our name and we're not going to address the issue. We'll just change our name and move forward. Everything that came from that failure spilled over into the next generation. So the next generation, not understanding the failure, they went and just recycled the same narrative. And this is why you start seeing the chaos, because everyone is operating from a template that was made in error.
Yeah.
So right now, people are talking about the war, the so-called wars that are going on over the battles that are the skirmishes that are going on over there in the so-called Middle East. The first thing Israelites are saying is, see, this prophecy, it's about the Most High, like this is the same teaching that they did in the 90s, and it did not pan out.
Yeah.
But again, the anarchy that we see today is not from a single event. It is from a culmination of oversight. One of the things that, and I swear, I don't know how you, I'm sure I think I know how you feel about this, but for my part, I hate when I hear brothers and sisters say things like, you have, you got to understand, the Most High, the Most High wants to destroy our enemies. And it's like, okay, but you do understand that when he destroys your enemies, you're here too.
Right.
So if he brings the famine, what you think Walmart's going to magically be open just to Israel?
And that's why Jeremiah 29 tells you. Matter of fact, let's bring it out.
Get the book.
Let's bring it out just because you just said that.
Get the book.
Realizing that you're here. Well, that was during the Babylonian period. Okay, well, it's still the same concept. Everything repeats itself in a sense. It says, but seek. It says, let's go. Are we 1 through 6? I want you all to study that, memorize it, dissect it, and see how it applies to our lives today, right? But it says, but seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile. Do you think he changed? Do you think that he doesn't have the same viewpoint for us today? That's another topic. You may not think that. But it says, but seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile and pray to the Supreme King on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. Right?
So what you're telling me is that I have to pray for Esau?
I ain't saying all that.
You're trying to say pray for Esau.
It says the city where I have sent you. So it's a lot of cities in America.
That's right.
And you may be in a specific city. So you
Right.
need to be, you know what, I'm over here in Colombia. I want to make sure Colombia is cool because I'm in Colombia.
Right.
Something happened to Colombia, it's a chance it may happen to me. It ain't like we up in the time of Mitzrayim when we had like all of us was in Goshen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And those different plagues that was happening, after a certain amount of plagues, then it didn't touch us anymore. I forgot what the number was. But whatever number it was, I want to say the fifth, or the last three, last 5. It didn't hit us, but that's another topic. But we had some of those plagues. I don't know if people agree with that or not, but some of them am I wrong on that?
I mean, you're talking about like locusts,
right?
Did the locusts? I mean, first of all, locusts they move in swarms,
right?
Did the locusts come and say up? It's like
right
and curved like
it was the last few from my understanding. I go back and redo it and look it up again. But right now it says, pray for the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Supreme King on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. So let's move the scripture to the side. If something happens, are you going to have the things necessary when things shut down? I would even say this: if you don't want to pray for the city where you at least you need to have people around you to where you all can build and protect one another. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Most of us, and as Bnei Yisrael, are moving. A lot of us are moving alone. Now, I won't even get into the Hebrew, right? Matter of fact, let me look at it though, because it's a little deeper with the Hebrew too. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I want to really go into that right now. Yeah, I'm not gonna go into that right now.
Scroll back down.
Yeah.
Scroll back down. Scroll up, should I say? Yeah. First word. Leadership. Mm-hmm. From Darash. That's a whole other subject in itself.
Yeah.
But that's why I was like,
Yeah.
Because that ain't just simply seek.
No.
Like, just hope.
I use it as look, the way that I teach that word, because since we into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So with I wish my Isha was on right now because she'd be quoting it so quickly. But you know how in 2 Chronicles 7:14, and it says to humble yourselves, and then it says to seek. That word is not seek. That word is yabakshu, which is babakasha, which is request.
Right.
Right. That's why I say and request my face. Why? He's a king.
Right.
When you walk into the area where the king is, you don't just walk in.
Right.
Sir, can I come in? I request. I remember I said that one time and somebody went behind me and said, we don't have to request to speak to the Most High. I'm like, okay. But the Darash,
what?
Yeah, but I understand it because most people don't do it. Most people don't ask, can I come before you? And I'm not telling people to do that. But the word in Hebrew, when I saw that word, I was doing it before, but when I saw that word, it confirmed it. Because bakasha is request. Babakasha is in request. Please request to come before me, because it said to humble yourself. Why is it saying humble? Because we're not being humble. We're just coming before you, hey dog. Hey, you my friend. No, humble yourself and understand that I am a king.
There's an example.
And I'm gonna get back to the Darash.
Oh no, because this is in the same thing. There's an actual episode, an old episode of Mark. Mm-hmm. It's like in like the 5th season when it was kind of about to end. But it was an episode where Pam, they're all about to eat food, and they're like, okay, Pam, go ahead and say the blessing. And what made it hilarious on the surface was how she did the blessing. She was like, hey God, yo, what up? You know what I'm saying? Right. Yo, this your girl, Pam, and everyone's laughing. It was like, ha, ha, ha. But when you think about it in all seriousness, mm-hmm. as a people, we have gotten accustomed to coming, because this is a Christian concept. Come to God as you are. Right. No.
You don't see that nowhere in the Torah.
Now, mind you, the Most High understands where you're at, but there is still, again, it's just like you don't do this when you go on a job interview.
Right.
You don't go to a job interview with a bonnet on or just some sweatpants and just be like, yo, what up? You give me the job or what?
Right.
No, there's an understanding that yes, they understand that you're unemployed, you need a job, they know what your situation is. But that doesn't mean that you don't come clean, smelling good, neat, and you present yourself in a certain way. We know this. We approach our employees the very same way. We go in there and we'll talk in a different vernacular than what we normally go in.
Mm-hmm.
Normally we'd be like, so blah, blah, blah. We get into a job interview. Yeah, so if you look at my resume, it says what it says. The vernacular changes. Mm-hmm. If we have enough respect for employers,
we don't show that.
But you come before the king and be like, but yeah, I ain't got this. So yeah, listen, man, yo, God, you know what I need. Right. Where they do that at? So yeah, well, back to the
that ain't it. Now I use this word Darash for require. But I want to see the different what's the names it has. Why is that not?
I want to bring something out about Darash. That's why when I saw like,
yeah, I want you to go ahead. I want to just see something really quick. Why there we go. So let me show it to the people just in case you're on. Mm-hmm. Let me show it to the people so they can see it. All right, click that. Okay. All right, so some of the definitions that it has here is seek or ask, which I still wouldn't use it as that. Mm-hmm. That's just me. I use it for require, but it says inquire, diligently make inquisition, search, and so like doresh, that's a word I use for like require. I use that as require. But what's your take on this?
Man, it's crazy.
Yeah, I saw that too.
That's it. But no, what's interesting is, and I'm sure you probably came across this in your travel. There's a the Parushim, we'll use that term for now. The Parushim, when they began to have an understanding of how to approach the scripture in the different ways, the literal interpretation, whatever. The acronym that they have is part of this. Mm-hmm. With some people say paradise or origin, but it's an acronym for Pashat, Remes, Darash, and Sod. And Darash, so these are the different ways that you approach scripture. Pashat means literal, like here's what it is, nothing, no need to go any further. Mm-hmm. Remes is like, okay, let's just look beyond the word a little bit. Let's just see whatever. Darash is to investigate deeper. Like, okay, it's like to dig, almost like you're digging, or
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, like an archaeological dig. Like, no, it ain't just this and it. We got to go all the way in now.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? This is what Darash applies, and of course, Sod is it's the next level stuff. It's out of this world type of understanding. But Darash, from the way that the Parushim utilize it, they utilize it in a way of seeking or inquiring of something that is not evident to anybody.
Yeah.
So when we just say, oh yeah, seek the peace or seek the welfare of the city, it ain't just like, okay, we're just gonna pray. No, it's like, okay, we have to use wisdom. Okay, inquire. How do we seek the peace of something? We have to find elements. First of all, we're in the land of exile.
Yeah.
Most of what we're going to come across is not going to be in accordance to what Yah would want.
Mm-hmm.
It's all evil.
Mm-hmm.
But even in that, we have to be able to find something that we can say, okay, we're here. We'll latch on to this,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll try to use this to keep ourselves safe. So it's not telling us to blindly just go in and quote unquote seek the peace of the city. It's saying, no, understand what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Seek the peace because you have to live here. You're going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
But don't do it haphazardly. Do it with an understanding that, okay, no, I have to research this. And that's why I really love the word Darash and how they use it in, amongst the Parushim, because they understood that not everything is just going to be for the sake of just like on the surface. It's like, no, we got to go further.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that were the case, he could have used the word pashat. Like, just go ahead and just accept the peace of the city. That's not what the text said. That's why as soon as I saw Darash, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Which completely, for me, it gives it a completely different understanding. Like, it actually is kind of changing how I used to view it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is heavier. This is heavier.
And that's why, for me, now look, watch this, right? I want to go to it. Where is it at? Where to go? Let me go back to it real quick before we. So, let me go back. All right. So look, I use as required.
Yeah.
But require, I know it sounds crazy because we're so used to seek, but require the welfare of the city. I use as require.
Mm-hmm.
That word, like that literal word, when I'm speaking Hebrew, that's the word for required for me.
Right.
But require the welfare of the city. It's literally opposite of what we're talking about now, right? We want this place to just burn. Why do you need to require the welfare of the city? Well, I have sent you into exile to pray on his behalf. For in his welfare, you will sign your welfare. So why do you require? You need to put, like you said, put things in place, right? I just looked up the definition to require. It says the meaning of require is to claim or ask for by right and authority, right? So when I think of authority, you need the judges, the elders.
Imagine that.
The things in place that's going to require us to move a certain type of way. Right. This ain't me fishing. Like literally, that's the word,
right?
Modern word, I should say.
No.
I get you. And when you go into it, it's like these are things that I believe we need in our community as Israelites. We got to require these things, and if we don't, we're going to continue to fail.
There's no doubt about it. One thing that I think at this point that we should be very clear on is that everything that we have tried, and let me not just say this as if this is coming off the top of the head. This is something that the late great Ben Ami Ben Israel had said decades ago in one of his lectures. I think it's the lecture, "The Greater Laws and Lesser Laws."
Yeah, a lot of books.
This is an actual lesson, like audio lesson.
Okay.
It's a fantastic lesson. Actually, I have it on the file, whatever. But he said that wow, I lost track of what I was going to say.
Don't you hate it?
What he brought out, but anyway, but no, I think that that when we deal with this concept of darash, of seeking the they say the welfare. But what's interesting is that again, even the term for welfare is shalom. You're like,
Yep.
like seeking the peace.
Yep.
And, you know why? Because if this place is at peace, then you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
We have, and I think sometimes in our zeal for wanting to see the destruction of America, we don't realize that we have not been delivered out of America yet.
Right.
You normally want to see the destruction of your enemy after you've been delivered.
Right.
The Egyptians weren't wiped out until we left the land.
Mm-hmm.
Until we left Egypt. Then you begin to see it. They didn't actually wipe out Egypt while we were there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an order.
Yep.
There's a structure when it comes to our redemption. So there's a text in second Esdras in the Apocrypha,
Mm-hmm.
where it says that the end of Esau is the beginning of Yaakov. That Esau's end is the beginning, meaning Esau, metaphorically at this point, has to come to an end before we, whatever. But he can't come to an end until we are ready to be redeemed.
Right.
You cannot pray for the destruction of your enemies if you have not been made redeemable.
Right.
Because for all intents and purposes, and I think, well, go back to the Matrix again. Morpheus said to Neo, remember they were walking that scene when they were walking through the street, and again he was like, the Matrix is a construct, and he's explaining what the nature of the Matrix is. And then he was looking at the woman in the red dress, and he says, go ahead, look again. And it was an agent. And he said, what? This program is to teach you that if they are not one of us, they are one of them.
Yeah.
Period. So we have to make ourselves redeemable before we can even talk about our enemies being destroyed. Because why? Because the condition that we are in right now, many in Israel would go and die off with America.
I was saying that this past Shabbat.
You're an American with fringes.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only difference. So I think we need to be very mindful of the things that we're saying, because many of us are coming from the perspective that we are already redeemable and we are already, set apart in the eyes of the Most High, and we're ready for whatever you want to call it, the rapture or whatever it is that you feel that the Most High is going to bring you to. Many of us think that we're already there, and guess what? No.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be very careful with these particular statements. You want America? Yeah, I can't wait for the famine to come. Yeah, the famine.
Yeah,
So Publix is going to shut down, and Walmart, all these places. Where are you going to get your food from?
You're living in an apartment.
Right.
You ain't growing no food. You're not a part of no community.
Doing nothing.
We ain't. So
your job is done.
That's it. And you got children. You ain't build ye houses. You ain't, so.
And it doesn't say, the text doesn't say, go and become one with the people. No, it just says pray for the peace of that city, because in that city's peace, you will find peace. It's not suggesting, again, this from an American standpoint, it's not saying that you should go and join the government and do all. No, it's saying to be wise. If you want to go into the other part of the book that people like to go, watch and pray that you fall not into temptation, and also what? Be harmless as doves, but wise as serpents. Understand the nature of which you are dwelling and move accordingly.
Yeah.
So it's,
And I don't even think when people read the English, they don't even know that shalom is here.
No.
But this is shalom.
You have a lot of people that even know the Hebrew.
Ha'ira esher. Higleti etchem. Right?
You all.
Shema we hispelu. So that's the praying. You all.
Mm-hmm.
Right. In
the area, the districts.
Mm-hmm. Yehia lachem shalom. So shalom, man, like shalom is telling you, is literally telling you to require or to seek peace in the city in which you are. So it's oh man.
In the city. Yeah. So yeah, I don't, and again, but this goes back to the issue of anarchy, because this type of narrative is obviously going to sound weird.
Yeah.
And it's weird because most, again, 99% of Israelites probably in the upper 90s, their understanding of scripture is the English translation. It's the KJV.
Mm-hmm.
And probably don't, and that's it.
Yeah.
And not only the translation, but how many of us have been wired up to view the text. So we'll look at a particular text, but if you were taught that America is going to be destroyed and Esau is great, a certain narrative, even when you go into a text, even if the text is not even talking about, you're going to interpret it from the narrative that you were given. So even if it says right there in plain sight to require or seek the peace of the city, you know what I'm saying? The definite article of the city that you are in your exile, will find a way. They will find a way to not do what it says. Mm-hmm. They'll say, well, but that was in Babylon. Was that any different?
Right. They were in exile.
They were in exile. First, it was captivity. Because let's be very clear, it was captivity when the Babylonians came.
That's right.
Got them. Then it became exile once they were there.
Right.
It's the same thing here. We started off as captivity.
That's it.
But now we are in exile.
That's it.
What's really the difference at this point?
Mm-hmm.
But once again, this goes back to all we know are the curses. Many of us don't have a mind for anything outside the parameters of curse.
Yeah.
Anything outside of that, it sounds weird. So when you start talking about, requiring peace in the cities or whatever like that, a lot of us, it's called cognitive dissonance. Our minds is like, no, it can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
It can't. It just can't say it. And this is why, again, many of us will not seek structure, because structure is going to disturb the status quo. It's going to disturb what has always been the norm amongst them. So if you start talking about, this is another reason why, and it's not the subject that we're talking about, but even the argument about, Esau being the white man. This is why Esau has to be the white man. It has nothing to do with whether the text says Esau is white. It's about, we need somebody to take accountability for our conditions, because we don't want to take accountability. We can't go back to the scripture and say, well, we're not Esau. Even if we say the white man is Esau, let's just go ahead and say Genesis 25:25 is talking about the white. Let's just say it is. Even if that is the case, how did we get into captivity?
Yeah.
It wasn't Esau.
Mm-hmm.
He might have received us into the captivity, like, oh, thank you, let's put you onto the damn plantation. But we got ourselves there. Our fathers and mothers got themselves there, and we perpetuated so on and so forth. But this is the reason why these type of anarchic doctrines are necessary, because they have to remain in a place where they can complain about the conditions of exile and captivity without taking the accountability and the responsibility to change it.
And on that note, you all, we're going to get ready and close out. We appreciate those of you that tuned in, those of you that's watching back later. Leave some comments. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear it. Make sure that you share it. Make sure that you subscribe. We will be back next week on Yom Rishon at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today's topic was dealing on structure and anarchy. Of course, we went a couple different places, but came back around this to where we are right now. And I really hope that it provoked thought and that it may provoke change if you are someone that's on the anarchy side. If you are someone that's on the structural side, as it pertains to doing what thus says the Supreme King, as an individual and as a collective body of B'nai Israel, continue doing it. You know, stay strong within it. Don't let anyone remove you from it. Don't let this social media, this fishbowl, right, this Facebook bowl, cause you to stray away from what you know it's supposed to be. And if you still learning and don't know it all, attach yourself to someone or a group that can help you get there. May the Most High bless and guard you all. Yebreku, Yahweh, Yeshmerek. Shalom, shalom.
I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. I see a dream, that dream is green. And I don't mean material things. Freedom to the land, child, woman, and man. As we take up for what we stand. Better days and better nights. As we stand and unite. We're one and the same. Why is it so hard not to point and to blame? Better sheet, get our houses in order and we'll see the peace. There are steps that we must take if we want to see.
I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us.
The sake of us, the sake of us.
I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us. No more failing, telling me beneath. What a beautiful moment, and a sight I can't wait to see. Even if I miss it, at least I wasn't part of the mission. Changing lives of men, women, and children. All glory goes to He that causes us all to be. Oh, and if they're thinking we can, we show them that just as long as we stand, a monument. We the people can't be broken as long as we stay focused. I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us. For the sake of us. I see my people rising, no more stopping us. A couple billion acres across America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us. I see my people rising, yeah.